Hello, everyone. I'm Lydia. This is going to be a personal testimony of what Jesus has done in my life and the role he has played in my life. So, we as a group, Jesus asked all of us to share our personal testimony and kind of pour our story, our own personal story into a video for you all to hear, I guess, what he's done for each one of us. So I'm Lydia. I'm a part of the group of 12 that Jesus has been calling together, and that just stands for the 12 birthright lines in the original kingdom. So there's many more than 12 people. That is just a placement, I guess, because what started in the beginning also needs to come together in the end, and that has to do with the 144,000, which it also speaks about in Revelation. Jesus leading the 144,000. So, I believe everyone is able to be a part of that as they come to him in faith, believing his true gospel, that he completed all sins on the cross. He saved us. There are no more works to salvation. Otherwise, you have rejected his gift, right? So, I'm a part of the group of 12 with Mandy and G, and Jesus chose them as the main mouthpieces, as the main prophets, because they were also Adam and Eve, the original Adam and Eve in the beginning. So, again, what is in the beginning also happens in the end. And before you go jumping around saying, well, that sounds like reincarnation, well, how do you think that, how do you figure where the scripture says that that Elijah would come before Christ? And that's what the Pharisees argued. You can't be the Christ because Elijah must first come. Well, Jesus said, you don't understand. They understood with human reasoning. He said Elijah did come, and he was speaking of John the Baptist. Well, God put the spirit of John the Baptist, put the spirit of Elijah in John the Baptist, but they didn't understand that heavenly truth. And if I know that some people don't believe in this, that there are demons in people, but what do you think Jesus was casting out of people when he came to the earth? He was casting out demons, evil spirits. If the devil is able to put evil spirits in people, do you not think that is something that he learned from God and he mocked it? He does his evil form. He does. So that's kind of the premise here for the group that Jesus is calling together, that I hope you all take to his feet and to help you understand what Jesus is doing. So we all don't know who we really are. We are here on mission on the earth to save God's children. It is all actually to do with saving the fallen line, the ones who fell in heaven. So the 1/3 of the angels. So God duplicated them, put them on the earth, and he also duplicated the pure ones, the ones who did not fall. And we are here to help the fallen line. It's a second chance, or many chances, really. But the existence here on earth is a second chance, and we don't have our memories at this point, because it's a real struggle, right? It's a real we had a sleeping curse put on us by the devil so that we didn't remember, but that was something. Nothing happens without it passing through God's hands. So that is the state we're in, and there's a lot coming that Jesus is bringing to the world. A lot he's wanting to teach, and a lot of things that were lost, books in the Bible, that he will bring back, that he's already bringing back. And historically, those books were taken out, and you've got to wonder why, right? A lot of those are very key to understanding mysteries of heaven, of creation, even the end. But God allowed it because he didn't want those truths to be corrupted and mixed around to where it would be harder for his children to believe when he does reveal those. And some of those are being revealed for the first time, like when Jesus said to, was it Isaiah or Jeremiah, as well as to John on the Isle of Patmos, to seal up the book until the end. So some of those books are just simply being unsealed for the end. So the way my walk started out with Jesus is I was really young. I don't know exactly my age. Well, as young as I can remember, Jesus, I thought he was a superhero. I knew that God was true, but I didn't know that Jesus came on the earth, like for real. And I was like probably 3, 4. I wasn't very fluent in talking yet. And somehow I figured out that Jesus was for real. Like I believe it was my dad or maybe a family friend who said when Jesus was on the earth, and I was like, Jesus was on the earth? Like actually for real? Because he was like my superhero, and I didn't know that he actually for real existed. And so I was like actually on the earth, like here, like on the earth where we live. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I was probably around 4. I was like, what? I was so excited. I was like, why didn't anybody tell me? I would have wanted to know that. So I was jumping up and down. I was so excited. I couldn't believe that Jesus was on the earth where I lived. I was ecstatic, and I was going around telling everybody. So I was going around telling everybody, did you know that Jesus was alive on the earth? Like for real, he was on the earth. And did you know that Jesus is real? I was just going around telling everybody, did you know Jesus is real? And everybody was like, yeah. And I was like, because I grew up in a family where we knew Jesus. I guess it just took me a bit to realize that, I was very young too. But yeah, so everybody knew, and I was like, why didn't you tell me? I would have wanted to know that. They'd be like, well, I just thought you knew that. So, that was very significant, and that was like extremely exciting for me, and I believed it with my whole heart. That's when the plan of salvation and everything became extremely real for me, and I was so happy. I was so happy. I was, extremely excited. And that feels like yesterday. So anyways, my beginning years, we were in kind of a unique setting where it was kind of a venture of faith, and a lot of things happening in my early years. My dad was a pastor of sorts, one of the leaders in the church. My dad is a man of heart, a very kind, sensitive, very generous type of person. And he was definitely a huge influence in my life. And then there were some things in my family where there were some more difficult things within the family that caused some difficulty to navigate, but I knew that Jesus was always with me, and I always felt his presence very close. And our family, the setting we became in, the religious atmosphere, became very difficult as well for our entire family. Caused a lot of pressure and a lot of room for conflict, and I often found it difficult to navigate. I know all of my siblings did, and my parents as well. Some not so good choices made for some, and a lot of things that were difficult on relationships within the family. And my dad was a very peace-loving person, and I'm very grateful for that. Him and my mom had a wonderful relationship growing up, and until this day, they have a very great relationship, as far as I know anyways. So I ended up getting into a relationship with human being who I loved very much, but had, and I still love, but not the way I did, who had growing up, he had extreme mental health issues and was harmful to others and to life in general. And so, I grew up thinking, love fixes everything. And if I just love, everything works out. But that is not, in fact, Jesus did, growing up, I had a very close relationship with Jesus. And from when I was really young, I asked for his wisdom a lot because I felt the need for it. And I know that God's wisdom was with me, and he was with me going into that relationship. But I didn't have experience that I ended up gaining, like going into the relationship. I didn't have the experience that I had gained after having gone through that relationship. It was a very deep, dark, I've never met a person like that, very sinister, he himself would have classified himself as an extreme narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, and bipolar. And so there was a point where I realized that it was in fact him that was struggling in his mind. And in those situations when you are not used to people like that and you don't understand what's going on, you can think that it must be something with yourself. And it took me a while to realize that that was not the case. But that was a very difficult time. I was with him for a little over 7 years, and I had 5 children, beautiful children. And we got away. It ended up becoming a danger to our immediate ability to stay alive, staying with him. So God told me, you need to get out. You have 2 weeks left to live. So I had who I call an angel who gave me wings. She and her husband were incredible friends, and they had gotten to know us over the course of the last couple years that I was with my husband. And they had gotten very concerned for our safety. And so I was able to communicate with her, limited, but enough to where she was able to help me get away. And by a couple miracles, I did get away safely with all 5 of the children. And to this day, we're safe. I'm very thankful for that. I know that God has his angels around us. And so he's protecting us and keeping us safe. And with the legal situation, because of the immediate threat there was legal action, and but it very slow where we live. So I just want to encourage other women and even some men who have gone through situations where there's intimate partner violence and there's a dangerous atmosphere around your loved one, the one who God put you together with, at least for a time. Where you can't feel safe. That's a very difficult place to be in, and my heart goes out to you. Those are situations where, just like every other, walking through life, it's important to lean on Him and not become unraveled in the chaos. Even though it is a very unraveling experience, don't let go of your relationship with Him. So mine got very severe. Right, to where we had, there were plans to unalive, and that is difficult for children involved as well. And I just want to say my heart goes out to parents who their children, especially when children are involved, it can create very complicated feelings for the parent who is left to pick up the pieces. Very difficult. But through that whole situation, initially, I would like to say I almost threw away some of what I believed because I put my husband in the place of God, and I am a follower when it comes to that dynamic. And probably also because, with my parents' relationship growing up, both my dad and my mom, they were very good with each other. If one expressed something, they were very in tune to what each other wanted or requested, So in this scenario, it was I just figured he needed healing, but it was not the case. He actually got me vulnerable and actually threatened me into getting married in the first place. So, and I know that if that happened to me, I'm sure that other people are in those shoes. And I just want to say that it is never too late. You've never messed up too bad. And during that time, I was actually very close to Jesus. I was really walking by faith during the time that we did get married. It was very confusing, because there was a lot of religious abuse as well, and then just outright threats. But very confusing for someone who didn't grow up with that, understanding what's happening, where you just think, well, yeah, I don't know. It's not a good place to be in. So, but Jesus, I did come to the place where I realized that this relationship was getting between my relationship with the Lord, with Jesus. And I realized that it was robbing me of my peace, and I also wasn't able to, I felt like I was slipping, everything was going down the tube, like I was becoming anxious, and I wasn't able to spend time with Jesus. And so I had to go back into a relationship and kind of pull away a little bit, even in my spirit and in my heart, and keep that relationship with Jesus, just partially for strength, and also because I didn't want to lose that relationship, because it was the most precious relationship I could have, because Jesus, he is life, and he's your best friend. He is a constant guide and a constant friend and constant father, right? Even as a young child, I always felt the presence of God, like as a father. And going to bed at night, I would ask him to hold me in his arms. And I'm guessing, my dad, he would rock us to sleep and sing to us growing up. And I'm guessing that part of my idea that was healthy about our Father in heaven was that my dad modeled an element of that very well. He was always patient in explaining things. He loved talking with us and having conversations with us. He still does. He's that way. So just an excellent example for that in that area. So it's been a rocky recovery for both myself and for my children. I would say the biggest thing that definitely by far the thing that has kept us is Jesus, and the biggest thing that has helped us in going through the things and recovering and finding our way to a life filled with love and a home built on a foundation of love is Jesus. And he told me, he said, I am your provider. I am your father, you and the children. I'm your father, and I'm also a husband to the widows. So he has been that 100%. And there has never been a time where I have been in debt. I left with, we had a joint account, my husband and I. We had a joint bank account. After I left, I did not withdraw a cent, but we had friends, the friends that helped us get away. They gave us some cash, to get started, we left with the clothes on our back and got driven to the airport and went to my family for a bit initially, and we had to go back to closer to where we used to live to get legal protection, so that we would actually not live with as high of a risk. But for people like that, there's always a risk, right? And so that's why Jesus, I know he has angels around us protecting us. Yeah, we have never had nothing in our account. We've always had at least enough. And God has blessed us so much. I just want to clearly say that when you leave a relationship like that, where the other party is trying to get in between you and your relationship with Jesus, he is your creator, your first love. And if anything gets between you and your creator, you leave, you withdraw from that situation, because there's nothing more precious than your soul. And the devil knows that. And so you protect that. And if you're a parent, you do all that you can do within your power to raise your children in a peaceful, a healing environment where your children can actually grow and develop in a healthy way as much as possible. No place is perfect, right? And actually a little bit of difficulty is good for us. It encourages strength. But that is a healthy environment. Whereas living in a place where you're at risk, high risk, and where there's a lot of toxicity, I understand that mine was probably more extreme, but that's why it's important to talk with Jesus, have a relationship with him, and he will lead you where you need to be. But that was not a good environment, and it is the right thing to do to leave an environment like that if you're in it. And you can have full faith in Jesus. I'm a living example that he takes care. There were quite a few times where I was like, Jesus, can I get a job? Even though that would have added risk. And my husband had told me this before, because he had a bit of a sick mind, how it would be easy to unalive someone with a schedule, right? Because then you could plan for it. But Jesus told me, he said, I don't want you getting a job. He said, I am your provider. I want you to have faith and trust in me, and I will provide for you. And so I have. And he has. And not only that, I would say one of the biggest things that has helped me heal is the wineskin process, where a huge thing was a very supportive community around me. But that might partially just be, I do find encouragement and support easily, or I gain strength from small blessings, right? So maybe not everyone in my situation would feel the same as I do. But one of the biggest things that helped me is I did have wonderful people around me who spoke truth into me. However, the biggest thing is giving those traumas to Jesus and allowing Him to pull those from my heart completely, to where I didn't have to just learn coping mechanisms. I was actually able to give those to Jesus. He pulled them out and replaced those with His light and His peace, to where I actually don't, there's real progress. There is real healing that's very deep and very lasting and very permanent. And it is so wonderful. I know, when I first left, I was like, Jesus, I feel so broken. I don't know if I'm ever going to be functional or okay again. But I don't feel that way anymore. I felt like there was a hole in my heart. And I don't feel that way anymore. So, Jesus is amazing. I'm telling you guys. He is the best thing in my entire life. And also helping me raise my kids as a single mom by myself. Coming out of situations like that, they often deal with intense trauma because there was all kinds of abuse. Every kind you can think of involved. But Jesus was here with us. I tangibly feel His presence a lot of the time. And that's because I've invited Him to be a real part. Everybody can do that. And I'm so grateful for that. He's helped me sometimes in raising the kids when things are difficult and I'm like, Jesus, I don't know what to do. I just go and I just pray. And sometimes He fixes things while I'm praying. Because remember, He is our Father. And, that song, When I'm Waiting, I believe it goes, when I'm waiting, Lord, you're moving. How's it go? When I'm waiting, Lord, you're moving. Yeah, beautiful. And sometimes we just need to step back and let Him move, because He is so much better than us. Like, He knows so much better, right? He sees everything. So, and He holds all the wisdom, all the answers before we ever had the questions or the need. That is essentially just kind of a basic outline of my life, my testimony, my walk with Jesus. I'm so thankful. I don't know what I would do without Him. I definitely would not be here without Jesus. He's just everything to me. like I said, we left with nothing except the clothes on our backs. And essentially, and a diaper bag. That was it. Yeah. And Jesus just provides, and now we have a home. We have everything we need and way more. We've just experienced a lot of His grace and His provision. He just provides. He's the best provider. That doesn't mean that there haven't been extremely difficult times, especially, I would say, in the realm of parenting. Some of the most, because of trauma, and I wasn't allowed to have a relationship with my children during that time. My husband had most of our relationship. He had worked. We had a farm, actually, and so he was around. I wasn't allowed to have a relationship with the children. There was no chatting allowed. If he heard me having a friendly conversation, the atmosphere was very controlled, and there was extreme repercussions if there was a casual conversation. That was not to happen. And so I did not have a relationship. I was never able to bond with my children. So when I left, especially the oldest, suffered the most from that. And when I left, it was like starting at sub-zero. And we all know that the earliest years are the most impressionable. And so he has had a journey in healing as well, and just done incredibly well. Just incredibly well. And I know that's all Jesus. And I encourage him often to spend time with Jesus, because he is his heavenly Father. He doesn't have an earthly father to interact with. There's no contact. My husband actually had never wanted any children and was very angry every time we had one, but because he was very religious, he did not believe in any form of safety measures. And I personally wouldn't take birth control pills. That's just not something I would do. But there are other methods that can be done that do not involve eliminating life. But that was something that he was religiously opposed to. My children were really close together, and I think it would have benefited them if they would not have been, but that was outside of my control. If they would have been spaced further apart and would have had a chance to, have a relationship with, kind of grow up a little bit before, but, that was all in the workings, and Jesus took care of that. And my kids are doing well. So, that is essentially kind of my story. Let me just think. I believe that is basically the story. Basically all I wanted to say. I hope this is an encouragement to others who have gone through similar situations. And I just want to encourage you that there's a scripture that says that Jesus is a very present help, or the Lord is a very present help in times of trouble. He is a very present help. And I would encourage you, if you have gone through situations that are extremely difficult and you wonder, where was God when this happened? Ask him. Ask him. Say, Jesus, God, where were you when yada yada happened? Where were you? Can you show me a picture? Can you show me? Can you let me know where you were? Because he was there. He says that he is never far. Never far. That means he is near. He is never far from any one of us. So I don't care if you believe in him or not. He created you, and he's waiting for you to get to know him. Because he is the God of love, and the Father that is depicted in the Old Testament, the kind of angry one, that was a learning, a teaching thing for the whole world to show you that there are two fathers. There's a false father, the one who masquerades as the true father to try to make the true father look mean and angry. But that's not the characteristics of the fruit of the Spirit. So that is the false father. And there's a scripture, is it in 2nd Chronicles? That says, I never told your fathers to sacrifice animals to me in the wilderness. So right there is proof that that was not the true father. And a lot of you who have a hard time reading the Old Testament, there's a reason. Because it was teaching you how the false father is. That was not the true father. The true father is loving and kind. And he has his arms open wide because he loves you and he is welcoming you home to his heart. And he has, like I said, the answers to all your questions, to all your problems before you ever were born. He knew the curveballs the devil was going to try to throw at us to try to offend us and knock us away from a relationship with our true Father, because the devil hates relationship and he hates love. And he's been trying to destroy Jesus and God since the world began. So, if you know that God loves you, come home to him. And come home in your heart, because he is home for your heart. So, I love you all. God bless you. I hope that my testimony maybe encouraged someone or some people. And I'm always here, and I read the messages. And I love you all, and God bless you.